Hi, Christine here. Thought I'd share with you really quick. Hopefully this comes through. My new shirt. I'm pretty pleased with this shirt. Anyway, I decided I had gotten over, I'm getting over being sick again. And so I was going to show you how to do a pretty cool looking Halloween style tree. And the sketchbook with my doodle design on it is currently still at work when I can draw on break, because I ended up not going into work. Could barely breathe and managed to get quite sick. So as it is, what I wanted to show you, and I don't have a pre-done picture here like I would have if my sketchbook hadn't been at work, is to do a tree in front of a moon. And this is pretty much a very graphic looking design. It's all in black and white. And the reason I'm starting out with this bowl, and you have to choose a bowl that you think is an appropriate size. And of course I don't have anybody helping me with the camera, so you just kind of trace around to get a nice perfect circle. I usually do these freehand myself, but I thought for ease of showing you guys, you get a nice even shape like this. What I'm using here, of course, is my favorite Canson Illustration paper. And again, my favorite Sharpies. This is, again, for part of the freehand project. It's just to teach you kind of how to do some of the doodles. I may turn this into a tarot card later. I'm not really sure yet. So what you want to basically do is figure out where your tree is going to start. And you don't have to do straight lines. I actually recommend going kind of bumpy and crooked and carry on. And figure out where your branches are going to go in front of the tree. And some of them you can go off the front of the moon. You can pretty much do whatever. You can have this become a really huge tree. Keep in mind your moon is going to be white. Later on, if you color, this will be dark. So you want this end of the tree right here. Have your lines squiggled in to simulate bark. Do a black spot for like the hole that you sometimes find in the trunk. Squiggly lines around it, kind of frame it, and then keep going and just fake the bark. Okay, so this, remember, I hate my phone. I clearly hate my phone. There, it's in focus. This is where your background is dark. So, as you move up the tree, of course, you're going to keep going and figure out where you want your branches, your main big branches, because every trunk has a large part of branches. Where you're going to have this split off. Now, I'm actually drawing while looking into the camera. I'm not looking at the paper, which is kind of making this a little bit more of a challenge for me. I do duck down and look at the paper occasionally. But you just keep going. I'm putting a little bump there intentionally because I like trees with lots of squiggles and knots and things like that. Especially as a wood carver, I thoroughly enjoy having trees that way. And as you can see, I'm starting to divide things out. Now the trick here is where I've gone with black lines here and the white trunk. In front of the moon, the trunk is actually going to be black. So your branches that you split off from the main trunk, you're going to fill all these branches in with black, which means you can adjust the lines as much as you want. You can play around, you can do little tiny black leaves everywhere, but I'll show you what I'm doing. And the nice thing about this project is you don't have to be able to draw. You don't have to think you have to draw well, but you're going to come up with something that's pretty freaking cool by the time you get done with it. And it's all just squiggly line work. And this is what you'll keep doing throughout the entire thing. And go out and look at trees outside. A pine tree is going to be completely different, especially in, you know, once the leaves have fallen off. You know, it's going to be just, every tree is going to be different. A pine, of course, is not going to have leaves that fall off. It's got the needles, they still stay in place unless something is wrong with the tree. But if you find a pine that has had the needles come off, like, you know, old discarded Christmas trees, whatever, take a look at the skeleton framework of the tree, because even that will be cool on Halloween. Now, of course, if I do this as a tarot card later, which is what I'm planning as a tarot design, I'm going to do colored pencil work here. So I'm just going to leave that line there for future reference. Your leaves. If you want to have a couple stray leaves here and there, just draw like a little teardrop shape. Fill it in. Remember, the whole rest of the tree is black in front of the moon. So you can have the leaves just be little weird shapes. They don't even have to be attached to your branches. So, okay, so this is what you've got so far. Now, if you want to transition and have, you notice I have more area. This trunk will be bigger later on, and I'm going to have some of it. If you have a branch that comes up behind, of course, you want to start higher up to make it look like it's going to come behind, and of course it'll be behind some of these others. But again, all of this is going to be blackened in, so you're really not going to get the idea directly looking at it as to what is really behind, except by this telltale what you're doing with the trunk over here on the light side. And again, later on I will split that off and I'll create the V, because a lot of this type of tree, this is either your oak or your maple right here. You're just going to keep doing these splits and keep doing these splits up here too. You go back into this, add more branches, have some fun with it, fill it up as much as you want, and just keep going. It does not have to be perfect. This is your freehand, just feel it coming drawing. You can, you know, if you are able to draw like animals and can't draw landscape or trees very well, whatever, if you want to do little shadows or stencil in like little shadows of birds or whatever coming off of it, that's fine. But now we'll go down to these lines here where I have the bark. And I'm just going to have some of this bark go squiggly here. All right. Switching over to the dark of the moon, so to speak. Here's where the black line is. So, I'm going to move that black line over. And I'm going to continue the squiggles up, but I'm going to try to make it that your squiggles, the bark lines, are actually on the dark side of the moon, where your trunk is going to be black, just like this. The lines and the bark detail are actually going to make use of the negative space, which is your untouched, not inked area. Your lines are suddenly going to be white. And you're going to do this on this entire piece that is in front of the moon. So the part that's with the night sky, possibly this area right here, your trunk is white, your bark lines are black. You get in front of the moon itself, where it's backlit, where everything's behind, and you want to show detail and just make it so people recognize it for what it is. Make those lines white. They will stand out, and this is going to look pretty darn fun and incredible when you get finished with it. And this, I like these very fine point Sharpies for this. They're excellent for detail. this is going to take you a while. This is not a short, easy project, and you don't want it to be. Take your time. Enjoy what you're doing. You notice I'm kind of thinning out these lines a little bit and kind of dividing them up so you're going to get more detail in the bark. And I don't fill it all in. And you notice it's starting to take shape. So that's basically all you have to do. So if anybody takes this and goes any further with it, please let me know. Post pictures if you want. My other project, the Doodle project, of course, I don't do full doodling. I had images that I wanted to put on there. I'll show you that when I get my sketchbook back. But, yeah, and I'll show you the finished tree I'd done on there, which was much smaller. But this is basically how you do it. I want to see where you guys take this. So, blessed be everybody. Have a great time drawing.